In the glittering heart of Lagos, where the neon lights of Victoria Island reflected off glass towers and the humid air carried the sound of luxury cars, there lived a wealthy black African woman named Amaka as heiress to a sprawling business empire, admired for her elegance and power, yet pitied for her loneliness. For though she often appeared at charity galas, draped in sequined gowns and diamond heels, her mansion remained silent at night, with no laughter to fill its marble halls. And one fateful evening, after a fashion event where she wore a red velvet dress and gold stilettos, she stepped outside to hail her driver, only to find him delayed, and in her impatience she waved down a passing taxi. Where she met Chike, a black African man in his early 30s, wearing a crisp white shirt and black trousers, his taxi spotless and his smile humble, yet confident. And though their worlds seemed galaxies apart, something in his voice carried warmth that pierced through the walls she had built around her heart. And as they drove through the buzzing streets, with Afrobeat music faintly playing from the radio, their conversation blossomed about life, about dreams, about how money could never buy peace of mind, and by the time she stepped out of the cab, her heart pounded with a strange lightness she hadn't felt in years, compelling her to seek him again. Nights turned into weeks as she secretly booked rides from him, sometimes wearing simple jeans and a jacket instead of her usual designer gowns, just to see if he would recognize her without her wealth on display. And every time she saw the way his eyes lingered on her smile, rather than her diamond earrings, she felt more certain that Chike was different. And soon their bond deepened into a whirlwind romance, one that made Lagos tabloids explode when the announcement came that Amaka Ez, the billionaire heiress, had chosen to marry a taxi driver, defying every expectation of her elite circle. On the day of the wedding, the cathedral was filled with whispers as Amaka walked down the aisle in a modern lace gown flown in from Paris, her veil flowing like silk clouds, while Chike stood at the altar in a tailored navy blue suit, his posture strong, his eyes holding hers as though no one else existed. And when the priest declared them husband and wife, she believed she had finally won what money could never buy: true love. Determined to prove her sincerity, she insisted they move into his modest apartment first, trading her chandelier-lit dining hall for a cozy kitchen where she cooked jollof rice in fitted jeans and a cotton blouse, while he told her stories about eccentric passengers, making her laugh so hard tears rolled down her cheeks. And for a while their love seemed unshakable, yet beneath Chike's calm smile, secrets brewed like storm clouds. It began with late-night calls that made him slip out of bed in his pajamas, claiming work emergencies, and mysterious absences explained with vague words. But what shook Amaka was the night she offered to wash his suit and found in the pocket a glossy black access card embossed with the logo of a multinational oil company, a company she herself had partnered with in business. And when she asked him about it, he chuckled nervously, saying it must have been left by a passenger, though his shifting eyes betrayed unease. Suspicion gnawed at her even as she forced herself to trust. But her best friend Ngozi, a sharp black African lawyer always seen in tailored pantsuits and sleek heels, warned her, "Amaka, love without truth is like a mansion built on sand. It will collapse." Yet Amaka, blinded by the warmth of Chike's embrace, silenced her doubts. Still, questions mounted when Chike began dressing sharper, trading his old polos for fitted blazers, returning home exhausted with the scent of expensive cologne lingering on him. And one rainy night, unable to bear it, Amaka disguised herself in a black hoodie and jeans, slipping out after him, her heart racing as she followed his car across town until he parked in front of a towering skyscraper, where she watched from the shadows as security guards in crisp uniforms saluted him with respect. When he swiped the same access card at the glass doors and walked inside like a man who belonged, not a humble driver, her breath caught confusion and fear flooding her chest. Who exactly had she married? The next morning, when he returned home acting as if nothing had happened, she sat across the breakfast table in a satin robe, staring at him as he sipped tea in a fitted polo, her mind swirling with doubts. And finally, she whispered, "Chaik, who are you, really? Why are you living as a driver when your life is clearly something else?" His spoon froze midway. His jaw tightened, and though he forced a smile, the shadow in his eyes betrayed the weight of unspoken truths. And as Amaka stared at her reflection later that evening in a sapphire evening gown, the woman staring back at her looked less like a bride in love and more like a prisoner of secrets, realizing she had tested the world to find who truly loved her. But now she was the one being tested, trapped in the mystery of a husband whose secret had the power to either protect her or destroy everything she knew. The mansion that once echoed with laughter and sparkling parties now felt like a cage made of gold, its wide glass walls reflecting a love tested by storms. And Amaka, dressed in a flowing crimson gown, stared at her reflection with eyes that carried both strength and sorrow for her marriage to Chaik. The man she thought was a simple taxi driver, but later discovered to be the hidden heir of a vast oil empire, had thrown her into a world of wealth, lies, and danger. And though the betrayal of his secret still pierced her heart like a blade, she could not deny that his love, raw and unyielding, had saved her from the emptiness of her lonely past. Yet before she could fully embrace forgiveness, fate twisted the knife again, as enemies of Chaik's late father launched an all-out war against them, filing lawsuits, staging smear campaigns, and sending anonymous threats that slithered into their home like venomous snakes. And Amaka, once shielded from hardship by luxury, now found herself dressed in sleek blazers and pointed heels, standing beside her husband in courtroom after courtroom, her calm presence under flashing cameras turning gossip into silent respect. But still her heart wrestled with doubt, wondering if the man she had trusted with her soul would ever truly give her all of his truth. Chaik, though now publicly a billionaire in sharp navy suits and silk ties, still carried the humility of the man who once drove a battered taxi through the bustling streets of Lagos, and at night, when the weight of the empire pressed on his shoulders, Amaka would find him hunched over his mahogany desk, tie loosened, eyes weary, yet burning with determination. And one stormy evening she confronted him, her voice trembling as she asked, "Was the lie worth it, Chaik? Worth losing my trust?" And he, his jaw tight, whispered, "It was the only way I knew to keep you safe from this world of vultures." Words that both comforted and enraged her. Because though his intention was love, the wound of deception bled deep. But the universe gave her a little time to heal. For one dark night, armed intruders scaled the mansion walls, their shadows flickering against the marble floor as thunder cracked outside. And Amaka, barefoot in jeans and a silk blouse, clutched her chest in fear as the glass shattered. But before the men could reach her, Chaik stormed into the living room, wielding nothing but his will to protect, shielding her with his body until their security subdued the attackers. And as she sobbed against his chest, his shirt torn, his arms tight around her, she realized that no empire, no money, no crown could fabricate the love that had burned so fiercely in that moment. From then, something shifted. For she began to see not the lie that had scarred them, but the man who had risked everything for her. And together they faced the firestorm outside. Amaka stepping into interviews, her Ankara gowns tailored with modern flair dazzling the press as she declared firmly, "I did not marry wealth, I married love," silencing critics and reclaiming her narrative. While Chaik fought in courtrooms with a calm ferocity that earned him not only the empire but the respect of a nation. The final trial stretched for weeks, each day a battlefield of words and evidence, until at last the judge's gavel struck, declaring Chaik the rightful heir, and the courtroom erupted in chaos, cameras flashing, reporters shouting. But Amaka, holding his hand, felt only peace, because in that moment, the man beside her was not a billionaire, not a liar, but the husband who had bled and fought and suffered with her. That night, under lanterns glowing in their mansion garden, cicadas humming in the warm Lagos air, Amaka stood in a golden gown, her heart pounding as she whispered, You broke me once, Chaik, but you built me stronger. And he, in a tailored charcoal suit, pulled her close and replied, No more secrets, Amaka, only truth from this day on. Words that stitched the wounds of their past and planted seeds for a future rooted in honesty. The crowd that once mocked her now admired her resilience. And though their empire glittered with unimaginable wealth, Amaka knew their true fortune lay in surviving the storm together, for love, tested by lies and hardened by fire, had emerged unshakable, and as the moon bathed them in silver light, she vowed silently that no matter what shadows the future cast, she would never again doubt the man who had chosen love over power. And in that vow, she found freedom, realizing that sometimes it takes losing everything, including trust, to discover the strength of a love that was destined to endure. Moral: in African life, true wealth is not the gold or mansions we inherit, but the love and honesty we build that no enemy can destroy.